This is part 2 of how to make a bar stool. I've already made the base using the flange, the weldments tool. So let's hop back into Solidworks. This is my part file. I'm going to start off by making an assembly from this part. Make sure that the assembly template is selected, although that's the only one available. Okay. Alright, and so now the should actually place it. No, it won't. Right, if you want to make sure that your part, the part that you've selected, comes in using the same axes as what you used in the part file, just click the OK button. What that'll do is it'll bring it in as a fixed feature. So if I right click this, you'll see that it says float here. If I try and move this about, I can't do that. But if I right click and click on float, then it stops being fixed and I can float it around. So Control Z just to make sure it's back in place and fix it. And right now the planes are aligned. Just hold Shift, Control. So there we go. The two are sitting on top of one another. The top plane and the top plane are on top of one another, and likewise with the right plane. Right, so let's just save this as I've got a name in here already. I'm going to overwrite this file, bar stool assembly. I've gotten rid of all of the sketches, by the way, or just hidden them. So at the moment I've got two other parts sitting in here, or one other part. So I'm going to just show you that you can drag files in. Here's my assembly file, that's my part file, and that's the actual post with the base for this stool to mount your actual stool on. I'm going to drag this across and it brings it into my assembly file. I'm going to maximize that. There are two ways of moving this around. One is that I can grab a face or an edge, click on a face or an edge, whatever you want, and just right click and drag. So right click, drag. Okay, I'll show you the other way. I'm just going back. Select the component, right click, go to move with triad. This will give you axes, so you can move it in the X or the Y or the Z axis, and I think you can also move it specific amounts. You can see this number appearing. Let's do that again, move with triad, and you can rotate. Also, once again, you can click to say 90 degrees, although not so easily. Alright, so you can do it. I prefer the other way, it just seems a bit quicker. Okay, so now I want to align this shaft or this post with this shaft here, because I'm going to insert a flange inside there. Let's just go back to this picture. You can see, if you look closely, there's a plastic flange. That's obviously threaded, and it is made of nylon or some similar material which will allow the thread to move up and down much easier, because it will provide some lubrication. So I switch on under the, I've switched that off. If I just click on this little arrow, I can switch on the temporary axes view button, and all of the axes are now visible. I'm going to select this one and the one on the actual base, and then make them coincident. Alright, so this can now move up and down, but it can't move away from this axis. Okay, so let's move that out of the way for now, and then insert the other component. Browse, it'll go straight to the folder which I've been using, and here it is. I've called it a flange insert. Okay, so it's got a reciprocal thread. I need to turn that around, so I'm just going to right click, drag, something like that. I mean, I could, just to show you, I could leave it like this and I can still do this. I can still align these two pieces by holding, I click, hold the shift or the control button down, and that should give you a range of alignments at the bottom, or mates. Okay, so I'm gonna say concentric. Let's say I don't like the way it's lined up. It should line up the other way. I should be able to go to mates, right click on this, and then somewhere in here there's flip mate alignment, and it'll just flip the whole thing around. So you can do it either way. I want to mate that face. I'm going to hold the shift button down and that face and say I want them to be coincident. Okay, so these two are now mated. I can't move this up and down, but you can see I can still rotate it. And I don't want that. I want it to be fixed. So I'm going to click on that and this and go to mate and just say that I want the two to be locked together, and that makes sure that the two are now fixed together as if there was a screw holding them together. Right, so now I want to get that threaded shaft to sit inside there, and I want to limit its movement to from about that point right down to that point. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to align just the two threaded parts, and I want to get rid of this one. So I'm going to select those two parts, 1, 2, shift, and then right click and say isolate. So if you had more parts, looks like I've isolated more than one part. I mean not more than one part. Let's move that up. It's this one here, and shift click right on that one. Isolate. Okay, so if you had a whole lot of other components, it would make all of them disappear just temporarily. You can exit isolate anytime you want. So I need to line this thread up with that thread pretty much exactly, so that they when I rotate them, they don't go, they're properly aligned all the time. So the easiest way to do that is to go to the section view, say OK, and then just I'm going to drag this over if I can. It seems I can't. It seems to have aligned already. This is a bit strange. Let me just go out of here and see if I can drag this. No, it hasn't. Alright, so just to make it easier, I'm going to align these two faces for now, and then go back to that one there. So you can see that they're not aligned. So I want to go to, I'm going to suppress this mate. I'm going to drag this over very carefully. I'm just doing this in case you might have to do the same. I seem to have magically, mysteriously have lined them up without meaning to the last time around. So that's very close. You can see there's a gap here. If I move this across, it's good enough. Right, so let's leave that, and then I'm going to go to the mates. And I don't know if you're aware of it, but there are, other than the standard mates which you're aware of, or we should be aware of by now, there are advanced mates, which we'll use one of right now, and then mechanical mates, which we're going to use immediately, which is the screw mate. Right, so since I've already lined this shaft up, stool, it's also by default lined up with the flange. So all I need to do now is I need to pick two faces of the actual screw. So that's one of them, and then I should be able to select the other one carefully. There we go. Okay, so this is sometimes quite difficult to see. You've got face 1 and face 2, and then it's going to ask me, how do I want to make this thing, the one part move within the other? Do I want to use it by revolutions per millimeter? Which I'd have to divide the pitch of the thread by 1. So I'd have to go 1 divided by 7. So it would move 0.142857 revolutions per millimeter. There's an easier way to do it. I know what the pitch of this is already. It's 7. So for every revolution, it's going to move 7 millimeters along. Okay, so that's that done. Say I'm happy with that. I'm going to exit isolate, exit this baby, and you'll see now the only way I can turn this in and out is by turning it. I can't drag it and get it to go. In fact, let's go back to the section view and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I can only get this to turn in and out by revolving it as I'm going along. Alright, so that means that that screw thread is working. So let's go out of that again. For the moment, I'm going to suppress this just so that I can get an idea of the limits that I want to use. So that would be 0 when it's sat, when the bottom of this flange meets the top of that smaller flange there. And then maximum would be somewhere around here. I want to leave, let's click on this. I want to leave a little bit of thread in there. There we go, something like that. A little bit of thread so that obviously it doesn't. Oh, I hope that's lining up. Doesn't seem to be lining up. I'll go check that now. Of course, because I've suppressed that mate. That's why it's not lining up. So I want to leave about, a certain number of threads here that it can't go beyond. I'm going to make it something like that. And while it's in this condition, I can now determine what the maximum height this thing is going to be by measuring between those two flange surfaces. So that's 353. So just keep that in mind. About 354 millimeters is what I'm going to need. Go back to the mates. Select Advanced Mates. And select this second from the bottom, Limit Distance. And the first thing it's going to do is going to put 1 millimeter in. And this amount here is, well, it could be 1, doesn't matter, but this needs to start off with your 354, whatever it was. And then the second two conditions are the maximum amount, which will be 354 again. So 354, and then the minimum amount, which is 0. I want the one face to touch the other, 0. Okay, so if I click on that, I should now be able to move this thing. Ooh, it's not working. Why is that? Lock. Oh, I obviously didn't institute that mate. Let's go back. I didn't click OK. Or I didn't select the surfaces. What did I do? Something I didn't do right there. 1, 2, there we go. They're at 1 millimeter. So if that's 1 millimeter. If I type in 354, and this is 0. So that means at its lowest limit it'll be at 0, at its highest it'll be 354. If I click on OK, and OK, yes, there we go, limit distance is in place now. So now, no matter what I do, I can't get it to go further than 354, those two surfaces, or less than 0, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to go reinstitute this unsuppress this screw mate, and now if I want to turn it out, I can only do so by twisting it. All right, okay, and so that's going to take a long time. If you want to move it very quickly, what you can do is just double click on this or edit feature and just type in how high you want it for now. So let's say I want that to be 45. Okay, watch what happens as I click OK. It'll actually thread it out for me. See that? Clicks that out. So let's just do that in reverse. Let's go to 22. It'll reverse it. So let's make it 60. It'll do that for me. Alright, so that's a quick way of doing it. In fact, you should be able to double click on it and get a dimension. There we go, you can get a dimension. So you get the upper and lower limits, but you don't get, there we go. So on the left hand side here is 60, you can type it in here as well. So 40, say yes, it'll turn it down for me. Has it done it? Yes, it has. Okay, and the rest is up to you, because the feet you're going to insert and the seat you're going to create, and you don't have to use this flange. Just a quick tip, I got these threads from a website called McMaster-Carr. I got the flange from McMaster-Carr and I just adjusted it to my own liking. I will try and put that link in the video below. So there we go. Good luck with your bar stool. Cheers.